Organizational Design, Structure, and Change by Odell. Thank you for coming today to take the opportunity to listen to my suggestions for an organization that is already extraordinary, and we're going to try to make it just a little bit better. The Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America is a nonprofit advocacy for home ownership organization, which is an absolutely outstanding company. A little problems, but we're gonna address that a little later. They have the best mortgage in the country, by far better than anything anyone else has ever offered. The opportunity for 100% of the people that they meet to be able to provide them with a loan. I'd like to take the opportunity to compare NACA to the most admired dimensions that Fortune magazine says if you represent these attributes, your company will be admired. Financial soundness. Well, we know you got $15-20 billion. The quality of product, again, bar none. No one offers a better product. Social responsibility, assisting those who are people of color and disenfranchised in receiving homes. No better social responsibility. Innovation. Well, with your cutting edge software that you have, proprietary software, you're certainly innovative. Quality of management. I have some suggestions there on our quality of management. Long-term investments. Well, again, you got $20 billion. In use of corporate assets. Well, I have some suggestions there as well, because I don't think we're using our corporate assets as well as we could. The underperforming dimensions is the use of corporate asset, quality of service, and people management. That people management, I think, is the one we really need to take some time, but we'll see. The ramifications and consequences of negative people management. Only 10% of NACA loans are closed. 10%. Now, I was told this by a young lady who, she told me this, and I wrote a paper on this in 2020. She gave me, Dixon was her name. She gave me this information. And I found that to be amazing, because everyone who comes to you can get a loan, but yet you're only closing 10 to 20%. 82% of renters say they would like to buy a home, but they can't, because they say they can't afford it. But you don't have those things, barriers you have removed, contributing to poverty of the disenfranchised people. When people don't have a home, home creates generational wealth. Then people can step up out of poverty and take that home and provide for their children to go to college so they can step out of poverty. These are serious consequences to the people management. The organizational structure is hierarchy. Well, you know that, sir. Operational or vertical. Most employees are at the bottom and the few are at the top, and you make the decisions, and it filters down to everyone else. Struggling dimensions, people management. We discussed that. The quality of service. If you're only serving 10 to 20% of the people that you see, 80% of the people are not getting any service. That's not a successful percentage. Use of corporate asset. You got $20 billion of assets, but you're not even serving half the people. You're not even meeting the industry average, which is 81% of people who apply for mortgage in the industry get mortgages, receive their mortgage. And social responsibility, generational wealth is created by home ownership. It is raising people out of poverty. Once you're in that circle of poverty, it's hard to get out of that poverty, but what can raise people out of poverty is home ownership. Organizational culture. Now, I have to say, sir, I worked for your organization, and I found the culture to be absolutely toxic. You could not control when you showed up. You could not control the people that you saw. You could not really have, as an employee, you had really no control of your schedule. You were just forced by leadership to do what they tell you to do. Which leads to the toxic culture leads to 80% of individuals who want a home without one. That's a difficult place to be. Conscientious capitalism, where we believe you, now I believe here you do believe you have a higher purpose, and you've shown that you have a higher purpose because you do. Stakeholder orientation, I believe you could do a little bit more of that in having the people who you get home to go out and bring someone so that they can get a home too. Again, it needs to be face-to-face, but we'll talk about that a little later. Conscientious leadership. I do believe you have conscientious leadership. Conscientious culture, I'm not really sure about that, because the culture really doesn't exist, because people come to work and they tie to their desk all day. You can't even really socialize with your the other employees who work there. So, but we'll look at that as well too. 8 steps of process from leading change. Create urgency by stating 80% of the people that you do not serve are relegated to poverty. They're already poor when they come to you. They're disenfranchised. They have bias against them. They suffer from racism. And now they come into your organization and you don't help them. Now they're relegated to poverty. By building a coalition, the leadership needs to create a team with middle management, the MLOs, and their constituents to determine why people are struggling to get loans closed. When you have 100% of the people that come to you, you can get closed, and you're only closing 10 to 20%, that's a problem. And we need to find out why that's a problem. Forming a strategic vision. Now, NACA's mission to assist those who are disenfranchised and people of color and poor people is an excellent mission. My suggestion is that we look at, instead of focusing on the product, which is an excellent product, and the process, which is proprietary software, that we focus on the people. We focus on the people. There is a study done by Miss Norwood, and she stated that 30 to 40% of disenfranchised people, they do better when they're face-to-face with someone. So I'm suggesting that we consider being face-to-face with people, that you support the people in the area that you live, and you're going to get 30 to 40% of people going to feel better. You're going to double, almost triple the amount of people you close if you do that. Then we're going to enlist that volunteer army, because you require the people who have gotten homes to serve and to give back to the community. What we're going to suggest is that you go take those people and make them bring in 5 people. And they sit down and they get them a home and those 5 people, and next thing you know, you got a whole town and city of people owning homes. We got to remove barriers. You got to give the MLOs control of their schedule and focusing on face-to-face interview with prospective clients. You have to. You've got to give the people on the ground more control over their schedule, what they're doing, and how they do it. Generating short-term wins, allowing the MLOs to book local appointments. Everything is local. We learned that in politics. Everything is local. You need to be face-to-face, as Ms. Norwood said, with disenfranchised people. Sustaining, accelerating, supporting MLOs in their daily interaction with clients. We have to support that initial contact between the MLO and the prospective clients, because that's where we're going to make the change. The CEO, you have got to reinforce and commit to MLO's local interaction with clients. That is the only thing that's going to change this 10 to 20%. Potential challenges. Of course, we always challenges, because people resist change because they have fear. But how we're going to attack that is we're going to complete transparency with the employees and create teams to discuss this change. The change has to be accepted by the individuals within the organization. It comes from the top and it comes down. If you're committed, they're committed. If they can see the difference, the change in how going from 10 to 20%, that we go from 40 to 50%, look at the difference that makes. Look at the amount of people that are taken out of poverty. Ineffective communications. That's the killer of change, is communication. If you're not communicating, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to fail. If you don't communicate the change, you're going to fail. And paint a picture of the future desired outcome. We need to show what it means for now 80% of the people, 90% of the people coming out of poverty, because of home ownership is generational wealth, is what home ownership is. And we have to have challenges, unclear objectives. We have to create a two-way dialogue and empower the participants. That's the only way we're going to make this happen. What have we learned from this? 80% of individuals who come into contact with NACA are not able to create generational wealth. That cannot be. It cannot be, because they will never rise out of poverty if that's the case. The vision of NACA needs to be on the people and not the product or the process. We need to focus on the people that come in who need to be walking into that door, because Ms. Norwood told that's the only way we're going to change them, if they walk in through the door. Leadership must fully support the new emphasis of people over process and product. Leadership has to buy in. If leadership buy in, sir, they'll follow you. I've seen it. They will follow you into battle if you lead them. And this is a battle that we have to win. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions at this time? Thank you for your time, and I certainly am grateful for everything. Give me this opportunity to speak with you.